In this tutorial, we will use the PDPorter to update a part that was basically created with little or no metadata. Notice the part shown on the screen. You will see that there are no general notes, and if we look at the layers, there are very few layers, only 2. When we look at the parameters, there are no parameters, and of course there are no relations either. Our start part, on the other hand, has a number of general notes. It has quite a few layers with these notes placed on the proper layers. It has parameters, and as you can see, many of the parameters are set via relations. What we will do is we will use the PDPorter, we will create a map file, and then we will apply that map file to our legacy file. To do this, we start by choosing Create Edit Map File from the PDPorter pull-down menu, which brings up the following dialog. First, we create our start part. We select our start part. In this case, I will use ImageCom's MBD start part. Next, we create the legacy file. Open the legacy file, which I have stored under Tutorial 2, and I believe we had the crankshaft open. Notice the 2 files were opened in the background, so you can minimize this dialog and look at anything you wish. Also notice when both files were opened that the remaining tabs were activated. However, 2 tabs are not shown here. That's the symbols and the annotation features, because there are no symbols nor annotation features in either one of these parts. Additionally, there is not a Layer State or Combined State tab because those are supported in Creo 1 and higher only. So we will select the Notes tab and map the notes first. Recall that our legacy part had no notes, so this tab shows us that all of the notes from the template file or the start file will be inserted. Next, we will go to the Parameters tab. Again, our legacy part had no parameters, so all of the data will be retrieved from the start part and filled into the legacy. Next, we look at the Relations tab. Again, we had no relations on our legacy file, so we'll add the relations from the start part. Next, we go to the layers. Recall we had 2 layers on our legacy file, so the user must make the decision. Do we wish to maintain these layers? Do we wish to delete these layers? Or do we wish to make sure that the layer data is somehow preserved? What I'm going to do is on the coordinates system, I'm going to move the data from the coordinates layer to the coordinate system layer, thus eliminating that layer. However, the datums contained a number of things, planes and points, so I'm going to leave the datums layer there. Next, we go to the Orientations tab. Notice that we had different namings for our orientations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to rename the bottom to bottom view, the front to front view, and on down the list like that. However, you'll notice that there's the default view. If I right click on the default view, there are no options. That is because you cannot in any way rename the default orientation, so we don't allow that in our tab either. When we rename these orientations, in Wildfire 4 and 5, this is not allowed through the APIs. So what will happen is we will actually insert the new orientation and give you a message letting you know that you need to delete the old orientation. Then we go to the datums, and you'll notice that there's a slight naming difference in the XZ plane from right to side. The rest will stay the same, which is fine. We are not going to access the find replace, and we're not going to access the macros at this time. By not accessing either one of those tabs, we will in essence not map them at all, and they will be ignored. Now we will select Save As, and we will call this Tutorial 2 and save. When we close this file, both of the 2 files will also close, and we are left with our empty Pro Engineer. So now we wish to apply the map file that we just created. First, we will open our part. I'll open the crankshaft again. And then we will select from the pull-down menu, Apply Map File. Now, if I had not opened a file beforehand, when I hit Apply Map, you would have been prompted to open a file. Notice Tutorial 2 is already shown as the selected map file. That's because it will automatically show either the last used or the last saved map file. Notice also it lists the items that were mapped. It lists all the items without macros and without the find replace. When I select Apply, all of the elements that we had mapped will be updated in this part file. The rotations are due to the orientations. Then we bring up our report. We ran the crankshaft, so I'll go to the crankshaft, and it points out that the orientations need to be manually deleted as we discussed earlier. Notice these are warnings, not errors. That's because it will not in any way impact the part if you choose not to fix this. An error is something that needs to be fixed, and an information is strictly that, information only. Now look at the part. You see we have our general notes have all been added. If we go to the layers, we see all of our new layers, plus we see the layer that we retained from the legacy. We see our new layers contain our new notes. If we look at our parameters, we see all the parameters were added, including those that were set by relations, which are set. At this point, the user would need to manually add the combined states. That's because in Wildfire 4 and 5, the combined states software APIs are not available through ProEngineer. In Creo 1 and higher, you would have also gotten the layer states and the combined states added to your part.